Okay, so we're in my dining room, and this is where I prefer to resin my pieces, simply because my surface is a lot more level here. So you do need, let me move this over. You do need a level surface. Sorry, I'm trying to angle this so that you can see. So bear with me one moment. Okay. So I prefer to work in my dining room table because the surface is more level than my surfaces in my studio. So I do cover the table with a plastic garbage bag because you don't want this on your table. So I also, for a little added protection, I have a silicone mat that I put down. So I have these little cups that I use to put my little plaque on. And then I use one of these little levels to make sure that it's even, or rather level. So you can use, I have popsicle sticks. Let me go get those. All right, so I have some popsicle sticks here that I bought at Dollar Tree, and they come in handy when your surface is not level. Because what I like to do is, if I can ever pull one of these out, is I'll break them in half, and then I'll use that to level my cup to make sure. Just stick it underneath the cup until that little bubble in the center is centered perfectly. Let me bring you a little bit closer so you can see what I mean. It's really important that it is level, because if it's not level, what happens is that your resin will float over to one side and it will be uneven. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave it alone. And now I use two little cups. Let me bring you back up so you can see what I'm doing. I use these two little cups to measure my resin. And again, I like to use let me bring you back out. I like to use art resin, and this one you have to measure equal parts. So what I do is I use the lettering on my little cup here to measure, or if you use a see-through cup, you can just do it by eye. Let me get this in here and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have equal parts of resin in my little cups, and I never mix one into the other. I prefer to add them into a separate cup like that. And then I do have this little silicone spatula to get the remainder out. And the reason that I don't mix in the same cup is, or rather, pour one into the other, and I prefer to pour them into a separate container, is because sometimes there are some that remains on the sides, and it doesn't mix well. You have to make sure that you mix it well, and if you have it pour one into the other, there's always a little bit that remains in one cup. You can do this any way you like, whatever you feel comfortable doing. This is just the way that I prefer to do it. When I first started using resin, I made a lot of mistakes and I had a lot of ruined pieces. So I found that this works best for me. And you can buy these little plastic cups at Dollar Tree, anywhere. So now you want to mix this. Once you have it in your cup, you want to mix it for 3 minutes. And I know it sounds like a long time, but you have to make sure that it's mixed properly and completely. Make sure you scrape the sides of your container so that you get it blended well, and just keep mixing for 3 minutes. Okay, so I have mixed mine for 3 minutes, and a piece of advice that I will give to you is that when you are pouring, do not scrape the sides, because there may be some product that did not blend with the other. So you don't want to have any patches that do not solidify in the drying process. So I prefer not to scrape from the sides. So I'm just going to pour it, and you can see there's tons of bubbles in there. Diesel is a little upset with me because he wants to play, and I'm making a video. So you can hear him in the background. making all kinds of strange noises. Now I'm going to take a popsicle stick. You can use the other part, the silicone piece, but I prefer to use something separate from what I use to mix. And I'm just going to spread it around. And I'm just going to run the popsicle stick along the edges to make sure that I get those little edges where the paper connects to the cradle board, so that it's an extra little adhesive to ensure that it doesn't come apart later on. Okay, so now if you look at the surface, there are tons of bubbles on there. So I'm going to let this sit and settle for about 5 minutes. Maybe I'll go play with diesel for a little bit. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to pop all those bubbles. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right, so I've let this settle for a few minutes and I can definitely see some bubbles. I mean, there's lots of bubbles in there. And the way that you remove those bubbles is by putting a little bit of heat to it. Now, if you don't, I'm going to use this torch, but if you don't have a torch, you can use one of those grill lighters. Very carefully, just run it across the surface without touching it, and not for an extended period of time because you can cook the resin. So you'll see the bubbles start to pop. You can also use a heat gun. That works as well, but I prefer to use the torch. It's quick and easy. So I'm just going to turn it on and get rid of some of those bubbles. And you can see I'm not holding it in any area for an extended period of time. I'm just running it across very quickly. And now I do see that I still have some more bubbles in there. So I'll let it sit for a little while longer. Also, you can use anything with a sharp point. If you have some big bubbles, you can just use that to pop them. And I don't have any large bubbles. I have a bunch of little ones. So again, I'll come back in a few minutes. I'll let this settle again, and I'll come back in a few minutes and pop those bubbles as well. So I'm just going over it one more time to make sure that I get all the bubbles I possibly can. So I'm going to leave this alone. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks right now. And you can clean off your surfaces with baby wipes. So I'll clean this and this off with the baby wipes. But for now, I'm just going to put them to the side. And I want to cover this because I don't want any dust to settle on it. So I use these larger solo cups, and you can either use a storage container to put over it. I'm just going to put this little cutting mat over it and let it dry. So you have to let that dry overnight. It does take about 24 hours to cure. So once that's done, we'll come back and we'll take a look and see how it turned out. Hello, my friends. It is the next day and we are ready to remove the tape. And you can see that it did drip. You've got these big globs of resin at the bottom, and that is why you tape it, because it makes it a lot easier in the end. So we're going to remove our tape and see what we ended up with. So looking at this, I can see that I have like one little bubble there, couple there, but it's not that big a deal. To me, it's not worth doing another pour. I'm looking at it very closely, so I can see it. But if you're looking at it from a distance, it's not that big a deal. But if I were going to sell this, then I would use some sandpaper, sand the surface. Then I would spray it with some alcohol and make sure that I get all the dust from sanding it off the surface and out of the little bubble holes. And you can also use your airbrush to blow the dust out of the little bubbles that you sanded down. And then you can lay another layer of the resin on top, and that will finish it off nicely. So now that I'm finished, I like to take the sandpaper and I'll give the sides a little sand just to make sure they're nice and smooth. And then I'll spray a little paper towel with some alcohol and just run it across the top and the sides, and I am all finished. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I know it was a bit long, but there was a lot of information to give to you. Where's the larger one? Oh, here it is. It's right next to me. So here's the larger one and the smaller one. But it was a lot of information, but I hope that you found it helpful and that you do give this a try, because it's a really nice way to mount your artwork, and it's less expensive than buying a frame for every single painting. So once you buy the supplies, you have them and you can do this over and over again. So let me know if you have any questions regarding anything that you've seen me do in this video. And please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. As I tell you all the time, your interaction is really helpful to my channel. It's an easy way to show your support for my channel, and I really do appreciate it. So check out the description box for links to the products used, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, if you'd like to share your work learned on this channel, you can do so on Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials. The group is growing, and we have such an excellent group of members. So I hope to see you there. Bye.